Hello everyone and welcome to our Game Week 13 preview show. I'm Chris, Kieran's here too. How are you today, Kieran?
Yeah, all good, very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm feeling some positivity after much needed Green Arrow Game Week 12. It was a good
Indeed.
one. It's just we were I'll bring up our teams just while we talk about it, but we were a little bit stressed probably heading into that last Chelsea Man City game, both sitting on Haaland captain. I had the faith. But after seeing Salah pull that 16-pointer...
Yeah, I was worried.
I was worried as well. I was worried and he came through. Do you want to just do a quick recap what you did in build up to this game week?
Yeah, so I did 2 free transfers of Lascelles in for Burn and Bowen in for Madison. Although the thumbnail last week said it's Kudus time.
Yeah,
I went for Bowen instead just because of I guess safety around like sort of Christmas fixtures, and yeah, I don't really know why I did. I guess I just had the budget for the more expensive one, and I went there. But so luckily I did. I don't really have a feel. I went against my feeling of Kudus, and yeah, I guess it was good in the end. But
it came in.
We'll see how it goes the rest of the time.
I mean, I think he got a yellow card as well, so it would have been a 1 point.
Yeah, he did.
You would have been raging at that 7-point swing. You were like, I should have just paid more.
Yep.
Obviously, Simicast on the bench was so annoying.
I don't really know why he's not come in for Lascelles here. Like, what's going on? Lascelles on 0 points, didn't play, right?
Oh, I know, that's so irritating. Like, when you messaged me and he's like, you said about it, I just kind of assumed he'd got an attack in return. And then before you knew it, he had 2 and he was on mega points.
I spent that second transfer to get Lascelles to purposely bench Simicast. So, I certainly didn't expect a clean sheet. I thought Brentford would score, so that would have lessened the blow, I suppose. But one of the assists was just like a pass, and then Jota went and smashed it in, and so what can you really do?
Yeah, no, nothing.
Like he's already got a price rise now, and everyone's going to buy him, and he's just probably going to do nothing for the next few weeks. He's not going to get those assists again.
No. That I saw the first goal, fair enough, but the second one, Jota did a lot after he got the ball.
Yeah.
So I had a good week. I've now the highest I've been all season, 835,000. Yeah, so I'm still a little bit behind where I would have. No, I worked out. So my transfers of like 2 weeks ago when I got rid of Morris, Son, and Mwembo, I said I was going to leave it 3 weeks, and it has actually paid off. I think I'm like 6 or 7 points up on that. So I'm pretty pleased about that. What did I do this week? I got rid of Udogi for Saliba, and
I was raging at that.
You were with Gabriel, and he hit the crossbar as well, didn't he, from another header? Imagine if he'd had a double goal return. Anyway, yeah, I know, jammy, but happy with that. So Saliba got 9 points. I've obviously got Bowen as well. Salah, Saka. There's another difference in our team actually. I've got Saka, you've got Son. Gordon and Newcastle were underwhelming. We'll talk about them in a bit. Didn't really feel like transferring Madison out this week because I kind of want Mwembo long term. I didn't fancy them as much as you did at Anfield, so I thought I'll play Archer against Brighton, who might be tired from Champions League. And from what I saw, they were unlucky not to get more out of that game. And against 10 men, could have got something. So at least he played, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a bonus.
At least he played. I've kept Madison, so I might even keep him this game week as well. I know he's like losing me value, but I just think the team looks okay. I'll get your thought on that later.
I didn't think he would drop so quickly because of the red flag, but I guess he was just major sold, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get on to talking about the game week ahead, which obviously we're recording the first week of the international break. It's a little bit hard to discuss some particular players because obviously don't know about injuries, and it was last international break that Simicast became an option, wasn't it, because of Robertson's injury.
Yep.
So we thought we'd just talk about some fixtures. So do you want to lead with the juicy one? We can talk about that first. City, Liverpool, Saturday lunchtime.
Yeah, so obviously Haaland, owners, non-owners. So Haaland's obviously got 16, 1 and a 6 in his last 3 and an 8 before that. So the last 6 fixtures he had 2, 2, 8, 16, 1, 6. So it was 45 points since sort of the game week 7/8 wildcards, and people who've obviously sold 5 goals, 2 assists in that time. yeah, so he's obviously, I guess the fixtures where he's gone really big, which is against Chelsea and Arsenal, I think
United.
still United, that was
Yeah.
one. So which obviously looked like would be the ones he'd possibly blank on. So yeah, the sellers have obviously probably been punished a bit. It's probably not gone the worst because he has obviously had 3 blanks in there as well. But I think yeah, he's sort of proving that he probably is the best asset in the game. Reliable captain most weeks, even against top teams. So yeah, obviously happy with that. Well, will I captain him this week or game of 13? Probably. Liverpool at home. I think that makes sense. Liverpool's defense is not great. Haaland versus Van Dijk, kind of tough, I suppose, but I guess we'll see what happens. But amazingly, that sort of his XG has only been beaten by Salah, which is at 5.0. So Haaland's is at 4.83. But non-penalty XG is another surprise, actually, with Haaland's actually in 4th with 3.2 and Salah in 3rd at 3.4. Jackson, of all people, 2nd at 3.7. And then Watkins quite well ahead by 1 on 4.7 at first place. So yeah, just imagine if Watkins could finish some super easy chances, then he'd be well up there, wouldn't he? So
absolutely.
Yeah, so for mids and forwards, his shots are 15 shots from game week 7 to 12. This is, which is 11th of all mids and forwards, which is not great for him. Big chances 8, which is 2nd, which is all right. But forwards only, he's had key passes of 7, which is 5th. So it's a little bit down there too. XA of 0.72, which is 7th. And then big chances created of 2, which is joint 2nd. So numbers, I'd say perhaps non-Haaland owners have been a little bit unlucky to not get away with a little bit more because his numbers aren't fantastically amazing and things. So, you know, they're what we probably usually suggest is probably around like a Watkins level usually. So, yeah, holding him through Chelsea United has obviously yielded 16 points in each game. Liverpool and Tottenham at home in the next, and Aston Villa in the next 3. So, yeah, the big games does seem to be turning up right now. So there could be holes in those 2, captainable as well. So yeah, I like him. What do you think of Haaland?
I think I mean, like, I've never had the idea to sell him really. I just think he, in the tough games, I kind of think City, you know, they like showing they're a good team. I think the only game they probably underperformed in this season was that Arsenal away game. Slaughtered Man United. You know, they went for it against Chelsea, and I kind of like that attitude now as well. I was just having a look back. Haaland didn't actually play against Liverpool when they went to the Etihad last season. He wasn't even on the bench. But regardless, City won 4-1. Salah scored for Liverpool, and I think it's going to be an open game again. To be honest, I don't think the teams have changed too drastically. I suppose Liverpool have got a couple of new midfielders. Alvarez played that day, so. You know, I think it's going to be, you know, a similar type of game, and I've got no real, concerns about captaining him in this one either.
It was a bit of a surprise that the Chelsea game they were so open at the back. Really.
No, I agree.
Yeah, don't really know what happened there.
They
Obviously,
made some
Chelsea
big mistakes as well, didn't they?
Yeah, Chelsea played well, I suppose, but like they're never that open at the back, really, especially for a Chelsea team who have sort of over the season been struggling, and they let 4 goals in. It's kind of strange.
It's like the game got crazy, and they were happy to go along with it. And as soon as that I saw it was, you know, City had scored early and Chelsea had equalised, I was like, this could just be a bloodbath now because they're just slugging it out. And it was. And even like the City goal they get, the goal City gave away, the penalty at the end, just like reckless dive in. Every player was doing a knee slide when they scored because of the rain. It was mad football. It was great.
I think when it went to 3-2, I sort of expected it to go to like 4-2 or something like that. And I thought they'd just be able to finish the game out like that. But credit to Chelsea, I suppose.
Definitely.
Okay, so Alvarez, someone in my team, a lot of people have him. He's 32% owned now, 7.1 million. He's already dropped once this break, I guess. I think it was like Monday or something, or maybe Sunday night he dropped. So yeah, since game week 7, he's had 8, 2, 9, 2, 2, and 5. 2 goals, 1 assist. Just his stats from game week 1 to 6 versus game week 7 to 12. Quite a big difference here. So XG 1 to 6 was 2.55 versus 7 to 12, 0.89. So that's a big drop.
Yeah.
Shots of 20 versus 14. Big chances 3 versus 1. Key passes 16 versus 10. And then big chances created 1 versus 0. and an XA of 1.04 versus 1.35. So the only metric of attacking for Alvarez that has gone up is his expected assists. So the rest of his attacking metrics, they literally all declined quite
That's
rapidly.
interesting. Yeah.
But he's basically played the exact same minutes. He started basically every game. So yeah, don't know what it is. I guess he's playing pretty much the same role as far as I'm aware. It just harder fixtures maybe a part of it. I don't really know. So he's possibly someone you could look to sell. What do you think about him, Emil?
Well, he's someone that, I've always felt like I could get in, and maybe I missed the boat because he's so highly owned. It's just like I should be looking for players now that are less owned that are going to deliver, and I kind of think that's a little bit what Bowen's giving me a little bit. Like I could have got Alvarez and switched, and they're both sort of similar price, and I went Bowen rather than the double up. But yeah, it's really interesting the drop off in form that I kind of think he's still absolutely I know Pep doesn't really have a best 11, but let's say he's in the best 11. I'd expect him to start against Liverpool even if he's travelled.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know about him long term. They've got the blank coming up, and I know Spanner in the chat a minute ago mentioned about how you'd use a wild card around it, and I kind of wonder if you've got sort of multiple City assets as you're getting towards the blank, and I know it's only one game, is it worth maybe sort of phasing some of your maybe your second or your third City player out ahead of that?
Yeah, I think it's worth keeping Haaland. I think you can bench him. Because around the blank, you've got Crystal Palace at home and Everton away. Those are obviously two really good fixtures. So if you can keep the next two, Liverpool and then Tottenham at home, and then Aston Villa after that away, then they've got Luton away, and then that Crystal Palace, then the blank. Then after that, they got Everton away and the Sheffield United at home.
So good fixtures.
Around the fixtures are really good. So if you can hold an Alvarez for something like that, if you can, that would be great. But it probably is possibly a good thing for most people to be able to phase. You're probably not going to have a good enough bench to be able to hold two, maybe three City assets if you've got a third.
It's almost like, what do you prioritise? Do you prioritise getting a slightly better bench for that 1 week, or do you prioritise transferring them out? Because you're right, you might, as soon as they come back from the break, you might fancy or think you want them for Everton and Sheffield United.
Almost certainly, because those are great fixtures. But yeah, if you are looking to get rid of, there are replacements available. Nico Jackson at the moment obviously looked really good lately, I suppose. 6.8 million, 5.1%. So he is definitely a differential still. Are we going to fall into the trap like we did with last Chelsea's fixture swings? So Newcastle away next. I don't really think they have much to fear there with how they've done against City. The Brighton at home after that, which is a pretty good fixture. Man United away after that is obviously a bit tough, but game week 16 plus, they got Everton away, Sheffield United at home, Wolves away, Crystal Palace away, Luton away, and then Fulham at home. So that run is really great. But we have seen them been on a run like that before from game week 2, I think it was, and they didn't provide. But only Haaland with better form than him in the forwards at the moment. With 4 goals in his last 2 versus Spurs and City. Second in the game for non-penalty XG of 3.7. Not a bad time to play Newcastle, as I mentioned. And then obviously Brighton's defence is pretty bad next. Man United are not a great defence either. So I don't see why he couldn't be involved with some of the goals that they're going to score. Obviously Palmer looking good as well. So Sterling hitting some form too. So I think he's certainly a viable option. I've had him in the draft for these last few goals that I've got, and I've loved that. So you're going to gain a little bit of money going down to Jackson from Alvarez. Seems like a good option.
It's interesting. I think he's definitely, just because of the goals, he's becoming more of an option. Like we wrote him off a little bit at the start of the season, on good basis because he wasn't returning. But if he is, and maybe that Chelsea team is better now than it was, Palmer I think has made a big difference to that. Perhaps they're a more solid side, but it will be interesting to, he's done well in the last two games against big teams, and perhaps the big teams have allowed Chelsea to play a little bit more than when they were playing. So let's say the teams that would probably sit in and defend a little bit. So I kind of expect that's the type of game they'll have at Newcastle. So if he comes through that and shows some more form, I'd be interested. Again, I've had him. So
it's possibly the time to get him now with the as you say, the teams that are going to attack a bit more, and he's going to get more chance on the break and stuff with Sterling running at people and things. So another option, Solanke, 6.4 million, 3% owned. Sheffield United away next is obviously a fixture to target. Aston Villa at home, then Crystal Palace, Man United, Luton, Nottingham Forest, and Fulham. So they've got some good fixtures in there. He's the 6th highest scoring forward since Game Week 7 with 27 points. Not amazing, but not bad. Fixtures are decent enough, as I said. Aston Villa can't keep clean sheets at the moment, so that second one is not too bad. And then, Man United, as well as that, those Aston Villa and Man United are the hard ones. Man United shouldn't really be feared. I think they could go there and score. No reason why not. He seems quite good value and obviously differential, and pretty much nailed on for all of the sort of fixtures towards Christmas. Should play all the games. If you want to strengthen your sort of squad, he seems like a good one to go for. And then just finally, Darwin, 7.5 million. I mean, 16.4%. So he still is a bit of a differential. The fixtures still look pretty good, but they are sort of turning a little bit. So they've got City next, Fulham at home, then Sheffield United and Crystal Palace. So those 4. Then after that, they got Man United at home, Arsenal at home, Burnley away, and then Newcastle at home. So there's a fixture run of 4 after that, which aren't so good, but Darwin can score against anyone, you'd think.
You say that, I kind of feel like the United game is just going to be another bloodbath, a bit like last season. I kind of think there's going to be lots of goals in that one.
Well, 9
maybe not. What was it? Was it 7?
It was 7.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'll be that again, but Liverpool just seem to turn up at home against United, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was another big result. So I quite like Liverpool's fixtures after City, and I think Arsenal at home, they fancy their chances. I just think their fixture run is great, and I do like, he is really frustrating to watch, but he's still returning. They're not huge, but he's still returning.
Yeah, so since Game Week 7, he's had 0, 5, 4, 10, 2, and 5, and he's only actually blanked once when playing in the last 5. One of them he was just completely benched.
So that's quite good.
So it's pretty comparable to sort of Alvarez's numbers, and those fixtures are pretty good. It feels like it's only sort of a matter of time since he gets like a 2-goal game or something like that. Like it's gonna come soon rather than later. It's just if you've got the money to kind of go up a little bit from Alvarez. Not many can fit him in. I mean, my midfield is tough to get him in, just because I got loads of money in Son still. So if I sold Son, I could maybe get to him. But for the time being, I think I can't, unfortunately. But I like him for the next ones. I think he could certainly score against City as well, be involved.
It's just difficult, I think, for Justin. It seems like because Watkins and Alvarez definitely to an extent are so ingrained in like the template at the moment, I think even when their fixtures are middling, like those two are good enough they're in good enough teams to score in the tougher games. And I feel like almost just because of how poor the striker selection is and how expensive almost the other ones are, like you're just taking such a punt going against that. Like I do, like in some seasons, Solanke at 6.4 million would be such a nice set and forget, but just don't see it like him providing good hauls or even ticking along that well. And
if he was like 6 mil, 6.1, 6.2, you'd be like, okay.
I know, and I think like when you compare him to a midfielder, and you could see someone like Mbuemo or or even much cheaper than that. Palmer's a bit of a cheat code at the moment, but there's just some inaccurately priced players in that midfield bracket. It makes it really difficult to justify a Solanke. But I do like Darwin, I have to say. He would be really frustrating to own, but. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then just one final sort of player to mention, Walker, 5.3 million, 16% owned, played every single minute in the Premier League this season, which a bit of a surprise. We always look for sort of nailed on City defenders, and he has been it this year. Only 4 clean sheets despite having the second best XGC in the league so far at 11.2. So after Spurs, he could well be worth sort of jumping on if you can manage to sort of hold him for over the blank. His attacking potential is pretty low. He's had 1 assist across the season, doesn't really get much else or much XA either. But City a good defense. The fixtures after Liverpool and Tottenham look good, so someone you could look at.
No, I like it. I didn't clock that he played every single minute either. That's quite rare.
Every single minute, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, We'll talk about Newcastle against Chelsea now? Another big game, sort of game week 13, and mainly I think because the sort of the changing of the two teams' forms really, and how I'm like viewing each of them. I think let's start with Newcastle. So they've obviously got Chelsea at St James's Park, and after that they've got Man United go away to Everton and Tottenham, and they've got Fulham, Luton and Forest after that. So they've got quite a I'd say decent run. I think you'd fancy them at home, but they're really mixed in terms of their forms. The last 8 games, they've only had 3 wins, all of them clean sheets though. So against Palace, Man United away in the League Cup, and Arsenal at home weekend before last. Now, interestingly, they've not now won any of their games after games in the Champions League since that PSG win. They've obviously got lots of injuries, lots of form. We had that big clip which was circulating on social media of Trippier arguing with the fans, just not really blaming the injuries but saying how many they've got. So it makes me think they're a little bit down on themselves, that they're using that as an excuse. I see that Wilson's potentially out for 6 weeks. That came out a little bit earlier today. Yep. I don't know when Isaac's back, or Isaac's back, I should say.
I think I heard he's been apparently training for about 10 days, so he should be fine for the Chelsea fixture. So yeah.
Okay, that might change things a little bit, but obviously Botman again, they still don't know. It's an interesting time for Newcastle. I think they showed at the start of the season in that Champions League game against PSG that they were still last season's team, but definitely they are wobbling. So in the last 4 games, their defence has dropped to the 6th best in the league. And before that, in the previous 4 games, it was the 3rd best. And the attack, they've definitely fallen off a cliff. So they're the 8th best in the last 4. The previous 4 games before that, they were actually the best in the league. So, in both regards, they've dropped off a lot. And I think it is down to a combination of being in the Champions League and these injuries is becoming too much for them. So that's why I think, again, obviously the Bournemouth result, I'd say, was a surprise. I wouldn't have expected them to lose without scoring either, even despite that they didn't really have a recognised striker. Yeah. So it will be interesting to see how they fare in this Chelsea game. I think there's a lot riding on it in terms of Newcastle's assets, and Trippier seems like he's owned by pretty much most of the game. I think it's 51%, but not us. So the majority of the game. But I mean, his numbers have taken a big dip as well. So in the last 4 game weeks, so game weeks 9 to 12, he's had 6 key passes, 2 big chances created, an XA of 1.2, and expected points over those games of 15.4. In the 4 games prior to that, so game weeks 5 to 8, he'd had 17 key passes, so that's over 10 or 11 more, 3 big chances created, which again is 1 more. His XA was 1.9, that was an increase as well, and expected points of 21. So basically every metric that you would sort of expect for Trippier, he's dropped on. So it will, for people holding him, I'm sure that they look at him as, I've made a lot of money, perhaps that could be better spent elsewhere. I mean, I mentioned to you about Reece James. I think Chelsea, I think it's a huge punt, like to go from a short of starts Trippier and bonus point magnet, and he does have that assist potential to James, but I think Chelsea's fixtures are good after this Newcastle game. Obviously we'll talk about them in collaboration with this. So the Brighton game they've got at home after this Newcastle game. Brighton play midweek, and again, a bit like Newcastle, they have performed really badly in their games after their Europa League. Chelsea then go to Man United and Everton away games. I appreciate they're difficult. Sheffield United, Wolves, Crystal Palace and Luton. But Chelsea's long-term fixtures are good, and I quite like James. And I also got to say, maybe it's not the right time, but for people who have Trippier and they're thinking a bit worried about this lack of form, that, like we discussed a minute ago, Liverpool's fixtures are good. And, Tsimikas is at the moment providing some, in this most recent game, a couple of assists, but it would take like one good or one Trent goal or one assist to make you think, right, I need to be on this. And their fixtures are, are good for a long time, like you mentioned a little bit earlier. I'm just seeing if I can bring them to the top of my mind, but I'm just trying to think where I've looked at them. Oh, here we go. So, after that City game, they've got Fulham, Sheffield United, Crystal Palace. You'd kind of expect clean sheets, even away from home in maybe 2 of those. The Man United home game, I think they'll win. maybe a clean sheet there as well. Arsenal at home, Burnley and Newcastle. So I think you could probably see maybe 3 or 4 clean sheets in those next 7 games for Liverpool. And, if you've got money to get from Trippier to Trent, I think it would be a good time to do it. So anyway, it was just a little bit really that Newcastle's form's dipping. I'm an owner of Gordon and I'm worried as well. If Isak's back this weekend, perhaps that will help their attack, but he looked a bit starved of service. He can't play number 9.
Yeah.
So
great.
If that continues, he's a definite transfer out for me. And just looking at this game sort of in isolation, obviously Chelsea away from home this season, they're pretty good. The underlying numbers. So away from home, they've got an XG of 2.32 with 11 goals scored. That's the second best record in the league. Sorry, that's an XG of 2.32. I think it's per game. So I think it's only second best to Man City. And away from home, expected goals conceded of just 1.1 on average, which again, joint second best record. So yeah, the numbers are there for Chelsea to put on a good performance, and it wouldn't surprise me at all based on how Newcastle have been and Chelsea have been recently, that Chelsea, I think it would be an upset if Chelsea won, but I can see them doing it. Newcastle only conceded 3 goals in 6 games at home this season. 2 of those were in that game against Liverpool, so I'd expect it to be tight this game. Do you see this going any particular way?
You'd said St James's Park before is a bit of a fortress for them, isn't it? So
yeah. I think even when they don't have a good team.
Yeah, it depends if that sort of brings through from all the injuries and stuff. If the team morale is still there with all, is that still enough of a fortress and a team to do as well? I don't know, really.
No, I think it looked like it fell to pieces a little bit against Bournemouth. I mean, Nick Pope, even though it was 2-0, I think he kept the score respectable as well. Like he played really well, and they are absolutely a different beast at home. And to only have conceded 3 goals in 6 league games at home, and like I say, 2 of them being basically in injury time in that freak Liverpool game when Darwin turned into Superman, and I think the only other goal was on the first day of the season against Diaby. So they've been really good at home, and I think it's a real test of Chelsea. I'm
not gonna lie, the Jackson punt is getting a little bit more fruity every time we're talking about it. Yeah.
What do you think about the rest of the Chelsea assets? Like, I don't know what to think about Palmer. Like, he keeps returning, but he's had so many penalties.
He's had 4 penalties in 5 games, I think it is.
Yeah. He's got 7 returns and 4 penalties.
He's had no other goals otherwise. It's just assists, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So
obviously he is a good asset. Yeah. Someone on penalties for that cheap is obviously great with the fixtures turning. So it seems like stupid not to get him, but he's not going to get penalties all the time. And other than the penalties, he's not, because he doesn't seem to be scoring. So you should probably just get him. I don't think he's going to return every week, but we should probably just have him.
Yeah, no, I'm
this seems.
I'm kind of of the same opinion really. I think he's like so cheap. He's a good enabler. Do you know what I mean? We can use the money elsewhere, but at the same time, you'd be happy to play him. I'm sure you'd probably be happy to pay like 6.5 million for him. So the fact at the moment he's like 5.2 or 5. He might be 5.3 by the time it rolls around to the next game week. I just think he's good. I wouldn't get him for this game week, but I mean I've got Maddison and Gordon, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get rid of Gordon after this game, and I'm quite sure that it's going to be Palmer that comes in for him. And I think at the moment the way Chelsea are playing, it's like him and 10 others. So why would you not want that in your team, basically?
And then you'll get Jackson and you'll get Reece James. You'll have a Chelsea triple up for Man United at home.
God, I just feel like that Brighton game at home.
Yeah,
the Brighton game at home is a clean sheet, and it's a James gets
clean sheet of Brighton.
Yeah,
Brighton?
Absolutely. They're traveling like some faraway place in Europa League. They've been bad after the Europa League games, like they were against Sheffield United at home. I feel like Chelsea win 2-0 in that game. And just talk quickly on James then. So he's 5.3 million, 4% owned, so he's big differential. He's always injured, which is a huge plus point. He got the assist against City, and he's getting taken off early, which we like as FPL managers, because it means he's perhaps not conceded these late goals. He's 2 big chances big chances created in his first 2 games back, which is the second most of all defenders in the last 2. 2 shots in the box is the second most of all defenders in the last 2, and 4 key passes in the last 2 games.
Yeah,
Is the second
I
most.
must have missed those shots to the box because to me he's looked like he's not been getting very far forward. But
well, it was either in that Spurs game. Obviously, the Spurs game maybe is inflated a little bit, but Spurs and Man City, despite that, are still difficult games, and his numbers were pretty good. And I know there's always like a huge question mark about him, but he feels like an exciting time to punt on him, and no one's really talking about him. That's why when I said to you about it the other day, you were like, no.
I mean, yeah, I get it. I've just been burnt by him, like literally so many times. He's been my fantasy troll, like the worst you could ever imagine. Like he's been, he's screwed me over. But I always seem to go back there because I know he's got a potential of doing really well. So, yeah, he's my crutch, and I'll probably will go there with you eventually. Or if I don't go there, he'll haul because that happens as well. So, when I try and avoid, just keep an eye on his sort of coming off, and if he keeps staying fit, I guess. I asked you if he was in the England squad, and we didn't actually find out, did we? So,
no, I don't think he is. I think they've just kept him back because they want to try and make sure he stays fit, basically.
That's obviously a good thing. So if he can stay fit over the break, which he should do, then he should be obviously nailed on for the next couple at least. Should hopefully stay injury free.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'll just say just be warned. Like his hamstring will go in one of the games, and you'll be killing yourself.
Well, we'll see. I mean, at the moment, the way it's looking, I'd have to take a hit pretty much to get him in ahead of that Brighton game, but then I have to have him in place. And to be honest, even the idea of my sane side says a hit for injury-prone James and as a defender is not a good transfer, but the fun side of me says, ooh. So there you go. Right, should we move on and talk about another game? Oh, also let's do a quick score prediction because we didn't do one for City and Liverpool, and we could do one for Newcastle Chelsea as well.
Do you want me to do City and Liverpool first?
Yeah, you can do both, and you can go first on both.
2-1 City, maybe 2-2.
Close. Okay, and what about Newcastle Chelsea?
Maybe like a 1-0 Chelsea.
I think that's going to be close. I'm going to say 1-0 Newcastle. I think it'll be low scoring and tight.
Interesting.
Yeah, City Liverpool I think is going to be high scoring. I'll say that'll be 3-2. I think that'll be a really good game. Really looking forward to that one.
I mean, I'm probably going to have to play Lascelles this week, and I really don't want to. I said to you before, like I don't know why I went for Lascelles. Really, it just felt like that they have okay fixtures still, and their defense has been good, and they're so highly owned.
Isn't he? So
yeah, he is going to play, but like, oh god, it doesn't feel good right now with the 0 goals. I thought the Bournemouth game was the banker, and then they got Chelsea and Man United next. Newcastle and Brighton next, and then Man United after that. So. I'm looking at Chelsea now.
They can keep
it. Get it wrong.
They can keep a clean sheet at home though. Like I said about their goals.
Yeah,
conceded,
they can.
They can keep a clean sheet at home against anyone. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
What about Livramento? Lots of people went for him, didn't they? And got pretty disappointed.
Yeah. To be honest, it's not really someone that was on my radar as a pick. Like, I suppose you maybe get that additional attacking threat out of him, but like you don't get the security of start as people found out. So I bet you you went Lascelles regardless.
Yeah, I think Hall went off at half time for him, right? So is that going to continue? Is Hall injured now? Maybe Livramento plays there all the time. I don't know what that was, but yeah, we'll see. Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to talk about?
Okay, so Spurs and Villa. So someone's mentioned obviously Son. He's looking like someone you could start to be selling on because of Spurs sort of injury crisis. He's at 40% owned still, 9.7 million. The 2 blanks since the injury crisis has hit. Looks pretty isolated versus Wolves, whereas his lack of chances in the Chelsea game was due to the red cards, of course. The XG versus Wolves was 0.12, where he obviously got 2 points. His XG versus Chelsea was 0.19, so not very high again, got 2 points. Versus Palace, his XG was 0.82 the game before, which was the game before that. He got 10 points. But then his XG versus Fulham, he got 0.26, but he got 14 points. So his XG doesn't necessarily need to be high for him to get hauls like in that Fulham game. So, yeah, we've kind of seen that historically from him. Actually, his stats, he's such a good finisher that his XG doesn't have to be massive for him to be able to do well. So, yeah, the XG as well over those two games compared to, say, the XG in Fulham, like there wasn't a huge difference or a drop off without Maddison around. Like, so he was averaging around the 0.3 XG mark. So, yeah, I don't think I'm too worried about him. I think the sort of Brennan Johnson, Kulusevski, people like that around him is still fine. That obviously it's not as good as Maddison, but they're still creating enough, hopefully. I mean, obviously Johnson seems to be able to get into sort of spaces that Son probably should be, especially with that goal that we saw against I'm forgetting who they even played now, Wolves, yeah. So interesting to see. But yeah, Spurs team XG over those last two games is 1.66, which is actually 18th, which is the third worst.
Right.
Yeah, shots of 14, which is 20th.
Wow.
Dead last of all teams over the last 2 weeks. And then big chances just 2, which is joint second to last. So
God,
that's showing a big drop off, obviously.
And
Villa
they started well in that game against Chelsea, hadn't they? So it was not
yes. Yep.
Total write-off, I'd say.
Yeah, so the Villa-wise, their XGC over the last 2 weeks is 1.3, which is first of all teams, but they've actually conceded 3 goals. So they can't seem to keep clean sheets despite their XGC. So, yeah, the Sun sort of Spurs attack doesn't look great. Villa's XGC looks pretty good. So what's going to happen here? Probably Sun get a whole 2-0. Yeah, so Villa's XG, though, game week 11 to 12 is 4.36, which is 4th. And then Spurs XGC of game week 11 to 12 has gone down to 6.2, which is 20th. So obviously their injury crisis of Romero and VDV going out with Royale having to play in there, Davies having to play in there, XGC has gone from being pretty respectable down to dead last in the last 2 weeks. So yeah, and whereas Villa's XG is pretty good, obviously Diaby, Watkins, all those sort of people doing well at the moment. So yeah, I think it's looking pretty good here for Villa, I would say. Backing Villa assets to score seems good. Diaby, if you're thinking of selling him, I think he could be a decent hold here. Cash as well with Spurs sort of XG, their chances and all that stuff going way down. I think Cash you could probably hold as well, and I think you should probably start him. I think he should be fine here. So yeah, Watkins 8.4 million now, 43% owned, which is obviously huge. Game week 7 to 12, his non-pen XG is 4.72, which is first in the game, and topped by some distance over Jackson, surprisingly in second, which I've mentioned at 3.7. Yeah, 5 goals in the last from 7 to 12. But yeah, he obviously should be on more. He's at a huge XG. Should be on loads of goals, loads of points. Reminds me of Darwin a little bit. He's an XG monster, or XGI monster, capable of hauls, and just incredibly frustrating, mediocre finishers it seems to be. So annoying. But yeah, his shots is 20, which is second. Big chances 9, joint first with Salah as well. Key passes of 10, which is second only behind Alvarez. And then big chances created is second, joint second on 2. So
he's still looking really good numbers wise.
For sure. Yeah, he had a massive 1.91 XG versus Fulham, and he only got 1 goal. So yeah, there was some huge chances he missed. But that's just Watkins' train, I suppose. The fixtures are turning slightly as well. So obviously they got Tottenham next, Bournemouth away after that, but then they got Man City at home, Arsenal at home, Brentford away, Sheffield United at home, and then Man United away. So the 2 really tough games, the next 3 are both at home, and Villa have actually won every game at home so far. So yeah, Watkins' record at home is 5-5, 23, 11 and 6. And then his away record is 5-5, 2, 9, 5 and 2, which obviously isn't as good, but obviously isn't bad either. Yeah, his record at home, not blanked at all this season. And then those 2 bad games of Man City and Arsenal, both at home, you'd expect he can probably still do something.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I think he's probably worth a hold over the tougher fixtures, because there's that Bournemouth game in there, there's still that Brentford game, there's still Sheffield United at home in there, and the next ones. So yeah, and he's obviously nailed on. He's going to start every game, you'd think.
I should have backed myself at the start of the season because I kind of feel like he was a season hold then, and I think he's a season hold now. Like, I think he's shown that he can return in the big games as well as small ones. But you're right, I wish he'd absolutely smashed it. Like, I feel like in the last 3 games when I had him in, like the second time round, to take that hit and then just to get 2 against Luton, 2 against Forest, and then just 6 against Fulham.
Yeah,
like
annoying.
He should have, like, his numbers, his XG in the Fulham game is massive, but he missed 2 huge chances in that Luton game. So yeah, he's a bit of a fail. You make an interesting point about Cash. I was like, I'll show my lineup later, and I might have to play Cash anyway because Luton's Bell might still be out injured. But at the moment in my lineup, I was happy to play Bell at home to Crystal Palace than rather play Cash away at Spurs. But now you're making me think that he's going to get some chances, and maybe typically it's going to be like in one of the harder games he gets the return.
Yeah, like I said, Spurs XG 1.66, 18th, third worst over the last 2 games, and it's probably not going to get much better because of Maddison isn't coming back. Like, their defense is still shot. Like, Porro can't get as far forward. Yeah, so Villa's XGC has been pretty good, as I said as well. So it's you would think it's a clean sheet possibly for Villa, and nothing for Spurs. Which makes me think I should probably sell Son, but yeah.
Yeah, right. They kept it tight away against Chelsea and they kept a clean sheet. But I don't know, something about Cash recently is just, they've just conceded these odd goals at home, like 1 against Fulham, 1 against Luton. Obviously, he got 0 in that away game against Forest.
Yeah,
it's just made me think maybe like it's a good time to bench him, but maybe not. Maybe I should just keep plowing through.
But he's got Bournemouth after this, so
yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why you want to sell him, but at the same time, like the Bournemouth away game is not too bad. No. But we've just seen Newcastle go to Bournemouth away and lose, so yeah, maybe it's not so great for Villa there.
Yeah, but I think the closer we get to the game week, the more strongly I'll feel about it. But at the moment, if Bell is back, like, I have no problem backing the home fixture because I think on their day Spurs could be really good. So
okay, I got some more numbers on Cash actually. Obviously he's only had 1 clean sheet and 1 assist from Brighton, Wolves, West Ham, Luton, Nottingham Forest, and Fulham.
It's not good enough.
Not good enough. Playing his normal right back role instead of out of position on the right wing. His XG average of 0.1 over the last 7 weeks, which is obviously pretty bad. And then 3 of the last 7, he got an XG of 0.00, so nothing. Game week 1 to 6 versus 7 to 12, his XG was 2.89 versus 0.54. That's huge. That's big such a drop off. 14 shots versus 5. Big chances 3 versus 1. Key passes 1 versus 4. Big chances created 0 versus 3, and an XA of 0.34 versus 0.97. So his XA has gone up. His sort of chance creation has gone up, which you'd expect from a sort of traditional right back role of crosses and things like that, which is fine. But it's not blowing anything out of the water. We all sort of got him because we thought he was going to be scoring all the time as sort of like a rampaging right back who's getting in the box and getting loads of goals, and that's not the case anymore.
Or even more clean sheets. Like in that run, you kind of expected some clean sheets, and now the run is more difficult. So you can see why people have given up on him, or not given up, but are doubting him.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. If I could move him on, then I probably would. But like I said, I feel like he's possibly got the chance to do something this weekend.
I think while Spurs are going through like what looks like a tougher time, I can see from your point of view that maybe you give him another week because there's nothing to say that based on those numbers that Villa could do well there, but just we haven't seen it basically.
Who would you even get around his price?
I don't know.
Like the obvious one was maybe like Estepinian, but he's obviously got injured again. So maybe Maguire.
I mean, you say that, but he's been pretty good, hasn't he?
Well, Reece James.
Yeah. Oh yes, Reece James. It's almost like written in the stars. You'd pay like 0.1.
How much is even is James?
5.3. Juicy bargain.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Low risk, high ceiling, Kieran.
Yeah, true.
It's like a Grand Design's house. Right, let's go on to the last game to talk about. I just thought mention Brentford Arsenal just because I like Mwembo, and it's interesting to get your thoughts on Saka, really. So I'll just start off with Arsenal's fixtures. So we know they're still good. So they've got, after this Brentford game, they've got Wolves at home, Luton away, Villa at home, Brighton at home, Liverpool away, West Ham at home. So, good fixtures there. But their numbers are not great attacking-wise. So they're the 8th best team for XG in the last 4 game weeks. They've got 6.4 there, 10 goals scored. They've obviously bumped those numbers up, really playing the bad teams, but it's a massive overperformance, like slightly less than doubled their expected goal tally, but they are good, and they have been good this season. XGC, expected goals conceded, so 2.8 with 4 goals. So they've actually underperformed how good they should be defensively, which was quite a surprise. So I think you can expect more clean sheets. I'm not sure they're going to get it in this game. I think Brentford have been better than them for XG in the last 4 games. They've had an XG of 8.3, 6 of 8 goals. So they're actually sort of more in line with what they should be expected to get. So that's a huge plus for them. I just wanted to pick your brains on Saka, really. So last 4 game weeks, 5, 6, 2 and 5. So he's not exactly pulling up trees there. I kind of feel like just looking at him in those games, and maybe someone mentioned in the chat earlier, he looks like he's carrying a knock, and maybe he is, but like he's not like proving that he's like a top FPL pick, because you would want him to be battering these teams. They played Sheffield United and Burnley back to back at home, and to get a 6 and a 5 in those games, I just think, even though it's good, but you know what I mean? I'm talking, I want Saka to be like up in the discussion for captaincy every week, and giving us a reason to not captain Salah and Holland, because Arsenal are like that good in the league table, and he seems like that good a player. Do you know what I mean? You there with me on that?
I agree. I've been marked safe from Saka hauls 2 weeks in the trot, and not only him. I've obviously been pretty lucky. Maybe he has an injury. Is he with England over the next 2?
I think he is. Yeah.
I think he is. Okay, so he's probably not even going to get rest, annoyingly. They've probably been missing Odegaard. Havertz is nowhere near the sort of creativity that Odegaard has, and sort of influence that Odegaard has on the team. So Odegaard, I imagine, is probably not going to go to internationals, and probably will be fit for this. He would have had like 4 weeks out, I think, or missed at least 4 games in the Premier League. So I think if Odegaard's back, I quite like Saka. I could quite easily move from Son to Saka this week and be pretty happy about it, actually.
But I mean, his numbers, well, you say that, but I was going to say his numbers are just not good either. So like in his last 4, he's not in the top 50 of all mids for XG. Not in the top 50 last 4. So like I say, Burnley and Sheffield United have been there. I can't remember who the first game in that 4 was. So let me just have a quick look. Like the block.
That's a shocker.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? That's what I was thinking. It's Chelsea. It was Chelsea in that away game where he got an assist. So he's like returned 3 in the last 4, but his XG has been poor. Like 0.17 total. 2 shots in the box in the last 4 game weeks. Like, Salah would do that in like 5 minutes against Sheffield United or Burnley at home. Anyway, so it's interesting. I mean, he's not a sell. No way near a sell for me, because he's got good fixtures and he is returning, albeit small amounts. But I want more. I want more from him. And creatively, he's like the second highest for big chances created in the last 4, and he's the second highest for key passes, and maybe that's fine. But I want some goals mixed into that.
Yeah, I suppose that's why he's at 9 million and not like the 11 plus sort of million. He's not getting the goals every week, I guess.
No, true.
But I obviously still like him. I expect like he will start to pick up the numbers soon enough. And I think he goes through this sometimes through the seasons, and where he gets a little bit down on his numbers and down numbers points wise. But if he's still ticking along with 5s and 6s, kind of like what Watkins was doing at the start of the season, it's still good. He's still getting numbers. He's still getting points. And you just want to be there for the massive hauls.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about hauls, like Trossard, who came in this weekend, he's like arguing. I mean, Jesus looks like he's back now because he was picture training for Brazil. Nketiah has obviously fit again. But Trossard's probably like one of their best or most informed finishers at the minute. Like 6.5 million. I mentioned him maybe like the week before last as maybe being a good option, but he's got the same amount of double-digit hauls as Saka this season, which kind of shocked me. And I felt like if he had more minutes, he would definitely be an option. But it's just a shame for him. He's got so much competition, really.
Yeah, he's another one in my draft team, so I enjoyed this weekend for that.
He's just
good.
He's just great finisher. Finisher. And then just quickly on Brentford, just to mention because I think after this Brentford have got a good run. So their fixtures after this, they got Luton at home, Brighton, Sheffield United, Aston Villa, then that's the blank, then Wolves, Crystal Palace, Forest. So really juicy. I like Brentford because they're like a good top half of the table team and they don't have any European distraction. And Mbeumo has been far and away the standout pick this season. And I wanted to sort of be able to recommend another player, but I can't really. So his expected points of 30 over the last 4 is the third highest of all players. So after Palmer, Salah and Haaland, he's had 10 shots in the box. That's the third highest total of all midfielders and attackers in the last 4. And his XA is actually the highest of all players in the game in the last 4. So I kind of feel like those numbers, based on how good he's also been this season, he's like I think he's an absolute must-have for this run. I mean, he's proved he can do it in the smaller games, maybe not so much the bigger games. He returned against Tottenham, but he didn't obviously do much. He had a good chance actually at Anfield. Did you see that one where he was through 1-on-1 with Alisson?
No, I missed that actually.
Oh, that was like in the first. It was on like one of the highlights I saw. It was like in the first half when the game was 0-0. He was through 1-on-1, and he just tried to like dink it over him. He was like trying like some sort of Salah finish. I feel like if he put his foot through it and scored, a lot more interested in him this week. But I'm tempted to bring him in before this game, but I just think based on how good Arsenal are defensively, he's wait another week. All right, well let's just do the final sort of score recaps just before we move on to our team and just wrap up sort of the mini preview. So Tottenham Villa, what are you saying?
Ooh, a 2-0 Villa, maybe a 2-1. Yeah, I think it seems like the safe sort of thing of 2 something, but yeah, I think Villa will score a couple at least.
Right. I'm gonna be boring, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be 1-1. I think it'll be a good game though, and it'll be open. All right, and then finally Brentford against Arsenal.
Yeah, if Odegaard's back, if Saka's still fit, I think it could be like a 3-1 Arsenal, something like that.
3-1. Yeah, I kind of agree. Yeah, I'll say. I think Arsenal will win. I'm going to go slightly different. I'm just going to say 2-0, just based on how good Arsenal's defence have been recently. And then, I'm going to stick with that. Makes sense. All right, well, let's bring up our teams. Unless there's any questions, I know there was someone that asked something about Porro a minute ago. Would we sell Cash or Porro? You replied to say Porro.
Yeah, I think Porro just because of Spurs fixtures coming up and their injury crisis.
Yeah, and Dijo has just said, what about Eze as an option and Son in for Saka in the next, or Son or Saka for the next 5? Quite like it as an option.
Yeah, I like Eze too.
And Palace's fixtures are good. He's. It seemed like while he was out, they reverted to type and played a little bit more defensively. In the last couple of fixtures, he's sort of come back in and been the focal point. So
yeah,
I like.
Elisa's back now. Elise as well. So yeah, I think he's good. He's just around that sort of Palmer price, or Palmer is certainly cheaper, and he's probably in the better team overall. So it's probably Palmer's probably better. But yeah, Eze, if you want to go differential, I think he's certainly a good pick.
And then finally, Deja just mentioned Son or Saka for the next 5. I think if I had a blank slate team and money was no object, I think I'd still pick Saka, just because of the fixtures are slightly better.
Yeah, I think so too. Son losing Maddison does seem to have affected them. So yeah, I think Saka.
All right, let's bring up your team first. So at the moment you've got that armband on Haaland, Alvarez in there, Watkins, Diaby. How are you feeling about the team this week?
Yeah, it looks a bit scary. It doesn't look great. But yeah, I don't mind it. It feels like a week that's probably going to get goals across all the sort of teams. And there's not going to be ones that are like low scoring, I don't think, just because the defenses have not been great at the moment, it seems. So, I've got sort of Diaby penciled into Mbeumo next week. Alvarez to possibly someone like Jackson seems quite cool as well.
The
but
week
then
after?
Possibly, maybe this week. I don't know. Alvarez is obviously playing a long way away, and he has started most of the games afterwards. But maybe this is a sort of game that Alvarez could do well in when Haaland's marked by Van Dijk the whole game.
True.
So Alvarez could be the one that gets free. I'm feeling okay about it. I think I'm benching Simicast, because I think I probably have to. And then I've got Lascelles versus Chelsea, who's not great. Areola in goal is not keeping any clean sheets. Hopefully they can against Burnley. I mean, that would be nice to at least get one from him. I just hoping for about a rough 50 would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's a difficult week this week, especially when like I think a lot of the template players play each other, like Aston Villa, Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool. Chelsea, Newcastle, and then City, Liverpool.
Yeah, I don't think there's a standout transfer for me. What I'm trying. Maybe Son to Saka is what I could do.
Yeah. But I think I kind of feel like it makes sense to keep Son in the home fixture this week.
Yeah, possibly that too. Yeah.
But and maybe roll. I'm thinking the Sound to change mine. I'm thinking roll 2, even though I've still got Maddison in there. I'm kind of hoping that Bell is recovered in time. He's gone away for.
Is the word that he might be?
Yeah, well, he's gone. He's been picked to play for Jamaica, they've got a game on Friday. So if he starts in that, I kind of assume he's fit. I just fancy I kind of think that Palace will score fewer than Spurs will. Palace will score fewer than Spurs will. So that's why I'm playing him over cash. And Luton have been quite good at home, so I wouldn't be surprised if they keep that to 1. Anyway, I could change.
Eze score.
Yeah, maybe he will. I could change that. I'm really relying on my shit players this week as well. I kind of fancy Archer against Bournemouth as well. Bournemouth have got like the most goals conceded away from home this season, and Sheffield United have. I think they've not lost in 3 now. So I'm really I'm on the edge a bit with Sheffield United, but I just fancy Archer's a nice differential. Oh no, they have lost it. They've not lost in 2. And Archer scored last time out at home. So, the team is, again, a bit of a mixed bag this week. I feel like if I wanted to, I could just get rid of... Actually, I don't think Mwembo or Palmer necessarily outscore Archer this week, because I think both those games are difficult. I think Newcastle have got such a good home form, and Arsenal just got such a good defence anyway. Even though I want both those players the week after, I kind of think Archer against Bournemouth in what is going to be like an open game between 2 teams at that end of the table seems like a better sort of differential play, maybe? Don't know.
Yeah, I think you're probably just about right.
I don't know. It's tricky. Tricky. But at the moment the team looks a bit crap because of all the big red flags. But I'm quite happy with the 11. I like my differentials in there.
This was just a week that was just coming eventually of just all the teams playing each other. I think we just got to tough through it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not expecting huge numbers this week, but I'm confident in my cheapies that they're going to deliver something. And we'll see. Nice. Yeah, right. We're not doing a show next week, but we'll be back after game week 13, which is why we got our preview in a little bit early. So we'll be, posting on Twitter as usual, and or X, I should say, and. Is there any more you want to add before we take our international break? Yeah, hopefully nobody gets injured and this becomes obsolete very quickly. I know. Can you imagine if Haaland, Saka or Salah get injured? Awful. In the first games, yeah. Right, well, thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Have a good game week 13 in a week's time. Bye-bye. Yep.